welcome back to KXAN Plus. I'm your host, Esmeralda Zamora, and we have weather answers with Rich for you all with our KXAN meteorologist, Rich Segal. Rich, how you doing?
It's a good day today. Sundays are always good days.
Mm-hmm.
I get to work with Jayla, get to work with you. We have questions that we can answer, and I always like to promote the blog that I have written for this week.
And you always have a great blog for the week, so it's nice to promote it here on KXAN Plus.
Thank you.
We're starting off today with a few questions. I'm going to pull up that first question before we see the answer, but the question is, what causes the wind to blow? I love this question.
I love the question, too. There's a lot of science involved in this, so I went with as basic an answer that I could come up with. And the graphic will have a few of the details that I was able to glean so that we can hopefully answer this for the viewer. First of all, you need to understand that a lot of this has to do with the sun. And as we all know, the sun does act like a warming device. And so what happens is the sun does not heat the earth evenly. It's an uneven heating that we have from the sun. But the basic premise is that the warm air rises, the cool air sinks, and wind blows from an area of high pressure into an area of low pressure. And so what is that called when you see this rush of wind? It's the rushing air moving from the high to the low. It's really technical. I wish I could explain this better on the map, and maybe one of these days on KXAN and maybe even on the CW Austin morning show, we can do a far better job of that than I'm explaining right now. But it has to do a whole lot with high pressure, low pressure, and the sun's uneven heating of the earth. So when warm air rises, it has to go somewhere, and it rushes into an area of low pressure, and that rushing air is what is called the wind.
And does that
clear as mud? I hope not.
Does that relate anywhere with the jet stream that we talked about last week? That's
pretty similar. We're talking here more for our purposes for this conversation about the wind here at the surface. It has a little bit to do with the jet stream, but more about what goes on here where we are on Earth.
A little lower. So what kind of atmosphere or what kind of things do we need to have for there to be no wind at all?
High pressure needs to be closer to the area. When we have a center of high pressure over the area, the wind is going to be light, if at all. And sometimes, this is especially true during the winter season, the fall and winter season. If we have a high after a cold front has passed that is miles and miles away from us, sometimes that will lead to those strong winds that we experience. And, as we all know, when we have those strong winds, especially in the winter, when we've had a strong cold front come through and we have those blustery winds that affect the area, we get those wind chills that can sometimes be in the teens and single digits, and that's happened a few winters past. So when a high is sitting right on top of us, the wind is light, there's no rush of wind at all, and that's when we have our lighter winds. And that's pretty true of the forecast for today, because we have a little high pressure system over the area that is keeping the wind on the lighter side. No gusty wind yet. We have a tendency to find our gusty winds in the spring.
In the spring.
Yeah.
I think this past spring it was kind of windy too, right?
Usually is. It's a transition season when we transition out of the cold weather or whatever cold weather we normally see here into warmer weather.
The warm weather that we always see here.
Yes.
And Rich, our second question is, does Austin have a rainy season?
This is a good question too. We don't really have a rainy season so much as we have rainy months. What I did was I made an email for myself because I knew that eventually this question would come up. And, it ranks 1 through 12, the wettest to the driest months of the calendar year.
Do they change, or are they always like the same month in number 1, number 2?
It depends. Now, these rankings are from data collected from 1991 to 2020. Data is collected and we get new averages, or like, for example, our normal high and low. We get updates to them every 10 years. And so the next set of data will come out in 2030. So for this purpose, for the viewer's question, it's not a season, it's a month. And over a 30-year period, again from 1991 to 2020, our wettest month of the year is May at 5.04 inches.
This year, our May was pretty wet, right?
It was. We had over 6 inches of rain in May. Now, May, spring.
Yep.
All right. Our second wettest month happens to occur in fall, which is our second. We have a tendency to see rain in spring and then fall, but it doesn't follow a pattern here, because you would think, okay, well, if we're seeing a lot of rain in spring, it would be May, then maybe April, and followed by March, but that's certainly not the case. So in October, which is a fall month, it's our second wettest month at 3.91.
And it's coming up, so be prepared.
Yes, and we hope we get that, because we so far have not had a whole lot of rain this month. All right. Third is June, a summer month, 3.68. And then you go to winter, where we don't get much precipitation at all. That also includes snow. 2.72 in December makes December the 8th wettest month of the year, and our wettest month overall is February. We don't get even 2 inches of rain in February. So it's not as much seasonal, although you would think, again, because we're transitioning from the cold to the warm, and as cold fronts come through during the spring season, we start seeing a little more rain. But I'm not really comfortable saying to the viewer that spring is our wettest season.
rainiest,
We just have the wettest month happens to occur in spring. April is somewhere in the middle, and March is even a little lower than that.
Wow. This is weird. Is it only like, do we only not have a wettest season here in Texas because we're in Texas, or is it because of something else?
No, it just happens to play out that way.
Wow.
Again, when the next set of numbers come out, these rankings will change. They may not change by much, but we may find that we didn't have too many wet months during this decade that will launch into the 2030 numbers when they do the revisions then. It just depends on, in this particular case, how much rain has fallen in each month over a 10-year period to add to the previous 20 years of record that we're looking at.
But the rain is also not just a sort of a pattern, but it can also be caused by other occurrences, right? Like tropical storms.
Yes, and we haven't had too many of those.
Yeah, but
Now-
hurricane
now,
season's not over.
we're going to find that we may get a little bump in July from what happened in this past July. It won't be much of a bump, though.
And what happened this past July was also a result of a tropical storm, right?
The remnants of former Storm Barry. That's exactly right.
So it's not going to be like that every July moving
No.
forward. Yeah.
No, well, we hope
I hope not. Yeah.
we'll always take rain in July, but we
Not that
don't
much.
want that much. No, we don't want that much.
Not at all.
Correct.
Well, our third question we're moving on to is, what is the difference between climate and weather? And I talked about this with Kristen on Kristen's classroom, so I kind of know
Today?
about it. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
So I want to hear your explanation of it.
Okay, though the difference between climate and weather is very simple, and we're treating this as a twofold question. Climate has to do with weather over a longer period of time. For example, Esme, you and I just talked about the 30-year averages, and that's exactly what the climate is. It talks about, it has to do with the weather over decades, years. All right? It's where we get our daily normal highs and lows. Those numbers may change too. And I'll give you an example. We have a 2-week period in August that from 1991 to 2020, we had a bump. We went from our hottest time of the year in those 2 weeks, where the normal daily high temperature is 99. And I remarked in several weather chats with Kristen that I thought that there may come a point where that normal reaches 100. And I fully expect, and I'll be long retired by then, but I fully expect that when the new numbers come out in 2030, that we will find the normal high temperature in the first 2 weeks of August, and maybe even in the latter part of July, at 100 degrees. And that's something that we had hoped not to have, but I think we're going to have it. So as you see, it says it's based on 30 years or more of data. Climate, the overall climate helps farmers and ranchers. For example, farmers need to know this information, the frequency of heat waves, the frequency of droughts over a prolonged period of time, to know, for example, maybe what crops they can plant and when they need to plant them. So more or less, it's like over a longer period of time than just the weather, which we'll get into in a moment. Think of this too, and that it's like your disposition. Your personality is created over a longer period of time, not just by how you feel on a certain day, because sometimes you'll feel good on a certain day. Other times you may not feel good, but what's your disposition? What's your personality like over a long period of time to determine, whether you're liked or not?
It's like measuring, let's say, in 3 months, how many times did I wake up angry and how many times did I wake up happy? And
That's
then
it.
seeing overall what kind of person you are, right?
Yes, and so now the weather, this is on a daily basis. What Freddie Vela does, what Kristen does, what
7
Nick
day
and I do.
forecasts, all that
Yes,
stuff.
what Nick and I do, and Tommy, we talk about the weather on a daily basis. This is what we're forecasting for the clouds. This is what we're forecasting for temperatures. This is what we're forecasting for the humidity.
Rainfall.
It's the atmosphere at a specific time, in as far as not a specific time, a specific moment in time. And so again, it takes into account all of those things that you see on line number 3. And as there it says right there, it's like your current mood on a given day, and you make daily decisions based on weather when it comes to planning for anything outdoors.
It's kind of like your closet. You decide what you're going to wear based on what the weather is that day, right?
That's right.
That's interesting.
That's exactly right.
Jumping back to climate, though, does climate really follow a pattern typically?
No.
No?
The climate can change. These patterns are developed over time. It'll take, for example, our daily highs and lows go over a 30-year period. They will change daily, but over a period of time is when you get, for example, those normals.
The average highs, average lows, stuff like that?
Yes.
Interesting. That's a good question.
Yes, it is.
Our fourth question, and I believe we kind of have 5
well,
with this one.
We talked about this, and we've talked about weather, and now I think we're going to talk about the blog, and I'm excited about this.
Oh, this is not even the right question. Let me pull it out of here.
Yeah, that was...
That was last week.
Yeah.
So now we're talking about the blog, and the blog is related to solar energy production?
Yeah, there's an organization called the Solar Energy Industries Association that has a wonderful website, and I checked it recently. Solar energy is a debatable topic.
Very debatable.
Very debatable. It really does go along party lines, I think, for the most part. But we always check because we know that our state, we can be very proud of our state being a leader in solar energy. In the calendar year of 2024, and this is covered in the blog, and I don't have the specific numbers in front of me, but our state of Texas, the great state of Texas, was #1 in the number of additional solar panels and solar farms across the entire country, and that leads to their ranking of #2 in the entire country, California #1. In the amount of solar power that has been added to the grid. 44,690 megawatts of total solar energy has been installed. One of the positives and I talk about write about the positives and the negatives because we wanted to be fair about this.
There's always 2 sides.
There definitely are. One of the benefits of this is it results in a lower electric bill. It also perhaps could eliminate the utility bill entirely. It's just depending on several circumstances. But on the flip side of that, the initial installation cost can be very pricey. And according to the SEIA, again, the Solar Energy Industries Association, the initial startup cost they figure based on dollars in 2025 can be as much as $29,000 before incentives. After incentives, that number drops to about $20,000.
And is that for just one home?
Yes, that's
or
just,
like
that's
a
just
commercial
for,
building.
That's just for one home. It broke it down into the amount of dollars that
Sizing.
you would need to spend for your home. Now, this creates jobs, But one of the things that solar energy is relying upon on the whole is the sun. The more sun, the more efficient your panels will work. Now, you do get a harness of solar energy when we do have clouds, but it's not as much. And the same thing happens. So, if it rains, there may be not as much generation as people need. It raises property values. But again, there are two sides to every story on this. And so the article tries to be very fair in identifying what some of the positives are and what some of the negatives are, because you can make a long, long list of, oh my gosh, these are the great benefits. How can you say, and just say this is not great, and then you go to the other side of this, and there are a few negatives that I found, and I try to be, like I said, I try to be very fair in the description of some of the positives. I didn't list as many as I could have, and I didn't list as many of the negatives as I could. Otherwise, the blog would stretch from our building over to I-35, and I didn't want to do that. You try to be brief when you write these blogs so that you don't lose your audience. And so this is what for me made me very happy is the fact that our state does so well.
Number 2, that's great.
It's number 2, and it's number 1 in wind. Maybe one of these days I'll write wind. But again, I got an email from the Solar Energy Industries Association. I signed up for their email so I could learn how.
Write about it, yeah.
Yes, and so this is what I wrote about for this week.
There are two sides to solar energy, but it always helps when you experience having solar energy in a time where you don't have regular energy. I went to Mexico this year on vacation, and as you know, it was 110 degrees, 115, and our power went out, but the home we were staying at had solar energy, and it's completely saved us for 2 days.
So you stayed cool.
Yeah, we tried.
That's good. Yeah.
But your blog post is going to be published pretty soon, but I can show a preview of this.
Yeah.
Here it is. It's titled, Texas Still a Leader in Solar Energy Production, and it can be found on our website, KXAN.com. What are some of the details that you added into the article?
Well, it just talks a little bit about the numbers, because, we're all about the numbers here in the Weather Office, and, how Texas is number 1 in 2024 editions, and number 2 as of June 30th in the overall production of solar energy across the country. One of the things, too, that is included in the article, and it's a one sentence because, the future, it can only be predicted. It isn't anything concrete. But ERCOT, the Energy Reliability Council of Texas, is indicating that the need for energy, I wouldn't say solar energy, but the need energy production is going to double by the time we get to 2030. And so that was something that was a little bit alarming, but not too surprising. So we hope you enjoyed the article.
We definitely did. Let me grab us back on camera. I don't know why my buttons are not working. Thank you so much for joining me, Rich.
Thank you.
We will see you during our next Weather Answers with Rich.
Thank you. Report it at KXAN.com.
Yeah, that's right. Send us your questions.
And